There, right there he is in the flush. And now.
What's next? Oh, wait a minute. We need to take up a morning offering. We don't want to forget that.
Well,
we don't want to cheat nobody out of a blessing this morning.
I was going to do that and you interrupted me.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Forgive me.
No, I'm just kidding. We do need to take up our morning offering. We got a deacon and deaconess coming up, and we're glad to see Miss Deaconess doing better. Because the Lord has really blessed her. Amen.
Fallen leaves that lie scattered on the ground, the birds and flowers that were here cannot be found. All his friends that he once had are not around. They are scattered like the leaves upon the ground.
Some folks drift along through life and never thrill.
to the feeling that a good deed brings until it's too late and they are ready to lie down there beneath the leaves that scattered on the ground. Fallen leaves that lie scattered on the ground. The birds and flowers that were here cannot be found. All his friends that he once had are not around. Are scattered like the leaves on the ground. That's why I've said so many times, if you love somebody, whether it's your friends or your loved ones, no matter who it is, you tell them while you still have time to, and give them the flowers on this side of the grave. 'Cause to that grave there's no use taking any gold. You cannot use it when it's time for hands to fold. When you leave this earth for a better home someday, the only thing you'll take is what you gave away. Lord, let my eyes see every need of every man, and make me stop and always lend a helping hand. Then when I'm laid beneath that little grassy mound, there'll be more friends around than leaves upon the ground.
I heard a question asked. It used to be 3 of us, now it's only 2. I'm not going to go into detail. I'll just tell you this. When you start following yourself and not God, then things have to change. So we made a change. We vowed to be true to God and follow his ways, and we're not going to put up with anything outside of that. So a lot of the music, well, 99.9% of all the music you hear is being played by Steve. So the backup bass you hear right now, we threw in there to kind of fill in, and that's Steve doing that also. He won't let me do nothing. But that's all right, too. If I keep him busy and occupied, he stays out of trouble.
Well, since you're full of mouth today, maybe you need to sing a little bit. I figured y'all was about ready for this one.
There's a lighthouse on a hillside that overlooks life's seas. And when I'm tossed, well, it sends out a light so that I might see. And the light that shines in darkness will safely lead me home. If it wasn't for the lighthouse, my ship would sail no more. And I thank God for the lighthouse. I owe my life to him, and Jesus is the lighthouse, and from the rocks of sin he has shone the light around me, that I might clearly see. If it wasn't for the Tell me, where would this ship be? Everybody who lives around me, they want to tear the lighthouse down. And the big ships don't sail this way anymore. Ain't no use in it standing around. Then my mind goes back to that stormy night when just in time I saw the light, or the light from that old lighthouse that stands upon the hill. And I thank God for the lighthouse. I owe my life to Him, and Jesus is the lighthouse, and from the rocks of sin He has shown the light around me, that I might clearly see. If it wasn't for the lighthouse, tell me, where would this ship be? And I thank God for the lighthouse. I owe my life to Him. If it wasn't for the lighthouse, tell me, where would this ship be? That's me picking whatever that is playing right there.
The wind is so heavy, the thunder so loud, the lightning is roaring, bursting in the clouds. They prayed for their shipmates for what they had done. They took the dying sinner in their lifeboat. Take me in your lifeboat, oh, take me in your lifeboat. It will stand the raging storm. Take me in your lifeboat, oh, take me in your lifeboat. It will bear my spirit homeward.
Thank you. Now we're going to get the man up here. You'd have been better off come this way, but, oh, you done lost weight, though. I forgot. Yeah, you see how he squares right through there with no problem at all. Our Reverend Pastor David Cash.
We'll steal a mic here that is actually hooked up. I won't keep y'all very long this morning, maybe an hour and a half, something like that. I don't know. Got a 15-point sermon here. I do want to say this, though. We're going to be looking in Hebrews chapter 12 in just a moment. I've got a piece of paper right here that I sat down and looked at the IP addresses of all of people that logged into our radio station on the internet in just 2 days. Now, that's just a sampling. I do not have them all. But we've got people listening to our station in Las Vegas, Nevada, Durham, UK, Fort Loudon, Pennsylvania, Cleveland, Ohio, Albany, Georgia, Arkansas City, Kansas, Park Ridge, New Jersey, Beijing, China, Glasgow, Scotland, Hootman. Glad you're listening up there. Okay. Goodlettsville, Tennessee. And they're going to hear what I said, too. Knox, Pennsylvania, Mason, Michigan, Sherborne, Dorset, UK, Sudan, Africa, Lahore, Pakistan, Martinsville, Virginia, Rochester, New York, Singapore, Bethesda, Maryland, and Hillsborough, Ohio, to name just a few. And it's growing every week to more and more, and I pray our computer will hold up until I can get that new one put in. But pray for that. I mean, there's loads of people that are starving for the gospel, and they are listening in, and they're hearing our church service. They're hearing our singers here, and I'm just thrilled at what God is doing through technology. I think it's awesome. In Hebrews chapter 12, the writer here tells us that if we are saved, we've got a calling from God to do something for Him. It doesn't matter how small it may be in the world's eyes, or how big it may be, or who you are. God has given you something to do. Something He wants you to do for Him, or a calling on your life. He wants everybody to serve Him. He wants everybody to fellowship together and to give of themselves to the Lord. Those are some of the basic things. But He refers to it here as a race. And He brought it down on the level to where people that back then could understand, because of the sports of that day, hadn't really changed a whole lot. They just wear helmets now. And so this is kind of like a Super Bowl that He's talking about. He said, you've got a race to run. And He said, wherefore, seeing we are circled about with so great a cloud of witnesses. Let me stop right there before we finish that verse. People are watching you. They are watching you like a hawk because you claim the name of Christ. And they are scrutinizing you. And quite frankly, some of them are waiting for you to slip up and fall so they can laugh. Just waiting. That is unfortunate, but it is true. And so, as Christians, we need to be careful. We need to be prepared, And we need to do what God told us to do and run that race because there's people watching us. Now, one of the things, the cloud of witnesses, there's a group of people that's cheering us on also. All of the people that have gone on before us that serve God faithfully with all their heart are up there right now looking down and cheering us on. You can make it. You can do it. So if we're going to run that race, there's several things that the author of Hebrews said we need to do. First of all, lay aside every weight. Nobody gets in a race with ankle weights on. You do that in training, but when you run the race, you take those ankle weights off. You need to get the weight that's holding you down from doing what God has called you to do. What kind of a burden are you carrying around that's keeping you from serving God the way He expects you to do? The Bible says lay it aside. Get rid of it. You can't run with all of that stuff on your back or on your ankles. He said, lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily besets us. Everybody here has a sin. Maybe it's a secret one. Maybe everybody knows what it is that besets you quicker than it does anybody else. We all know what they are. We may not tell, but we all have something that tempts us, that makes life difficult. Maybe it's a tendency to fly off the handle and go in a rage. Maybe it's a lust problem. Maybe it's an envy problem. Maybe you're covetous. Maybe you're tempted to do this or tempted to do that or whatever it is. And it says you've got to get rid of that sin out of your life before you can run that race properly, or you will not finish. Get rid of it. If you know what tempts you, leave it alone. Get away from it. Run from it. Don't stand there and look at it and say, I can handle it. I can handle it. Famous last words, ain't it? What is it they said that you know you're a redneck when your mama's famous last words is, y'all come here and look at this. I can handle it are famous last words. No, you can't handle it. That's why it says to flee, to run from these things that tempt you. If you're an alcoholic, don't go to work in a liquor store. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. Stay away from the old friends that drag you down. Stay away from the temptations. Maybe it's something on the internet. You need to take the computer out of the house. A little more modern there for you. I don't care what it is. Whatever sin besets you, get it out of your life and leave it alone. Don't play with it. And then it said, let us run with patience or perseverance the race that is set before us. Each and every one of you has a race that is set before you that God wants you to run. Everybody does. And you have to run it with patience. Lord knows serving God gets discouraging sometimes. Living your life for God every day can get discouraging sometimes. Where does that come from? The devil. Satan wants you to give up and walk away. He really does, and boy, he tries every trick he can. But you've got to just put blinders on and just keep running and don't look to the left or the right and just keep going, and you will make it. You will make it. Lord knows I don't know what I'd do without Donna. I'll be pacing the floor in the office sometimes going, Donna, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? And she just smiles and don't even turn around. She said, it's all right, honey. God's got it all taken care of. Don't worry about it. I reserve the right to worry, I'll have you know. I want to get those gray hairs quicker. The only gray hairs Donna has is what I gave her. She doesn't stress over anything. We were talking about it the other day, talking about somebody dying of this and somebody dying of that, and somebody spoke up and said, well, one thing for sure, Donna ain't ever going to die of stress. And they looked at me and they said, oh, but you probably will. But you got to do that. You can't listen to the devil when he tries to discourage you. And thank God for people that will encourage you sometimes. It's nice to have that, isn't it? How do I win that race? Well, you don't win the race by looking at me. You stare at me long enough, you'll get discouraged too. I'm kind of like that man that was out on a ledge getting ready to jump off of a skyscraper. And the policeman said, "Why are you going to jump?" And he said, "Because I've just had it." And the cop said, "You've got too much to live for." He said, "No, I don't." And he said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "Well, I'm broke. God, it doesn't exist. My wife has left me and my daughter's pregnant." And the policeman said, "Hang on, I'm coming out too. Make room for me." It's nice to have somebody that'll encourage you instead of discourage you and tell you something awful like that. Don't look at me. Don't look at the, Lord's sake, don't look at the TV preacher. Unless you've sent him to 1995 so he'll unlock the secrets that will activate God's power in your life. Look to Jesus. It says, "Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him," what? Endured the cross. Despising the shame, and is now set down at the right hand of the throne of God. And why? By doing that, he said, "So can you." Because I made it. I made a way for you to make it too. That's what Jesus is saying. Look at him and keep your eyes on him, and that race gets a little bit easier every time. Take your eyes off your circumstances. Take your eyes off the world. Take your eyes off of people and put them on Jesus. That's what you need to do. And it says, "Think about him," or consider him, "that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your mind." People being against you all the time will make you weary, will make you faint in your mind. Don't pay any attention to them, because if they're making fun of you, they've already made fun of Jesus. And if they hate you, they hate him too. Consider that an honor. And he said, "You haven't resisted unto blood, striving against sin." And then he says this, and this is something nobody likes, but it's true with the Christian life, and it's got to happen with the Christian life, because that's human nature. "You have forgotten the exhortation that speaks unto you as unto children. My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when you are rebuked of him." It's coming. Everybody gets a whipping from the Lord from time to time. And he doesn't do it because he enjoys it. He does it to keep you straight, to keep you following him, to protect your soul. And it says, "For whom the Lord loves, he chasteneth." If you get a whipping from God, it's because he loves you. I know when we tell our children, "This is going to hurt you more than it hurts me," and then your child says, "Okay then, well let me whip you then." But it actually does hurt us more to have to correct our child. It really does. It hurts. And God doesn't take pleasure in correcting us. He loves us. He wants the best for us. And so he has to do that from time to time when we stray off the path and start turning our back on him. He'll bring something along to get our attention. Let me tell you, when God gets your attention, he's got your attention. Maybe this morning that God's been knocking